Motherhood is a whole learning process. And I'm still learning. I'm not an expert. No one is. That's one thing I've come to know in my very short experience at motherhood. No one is an expert. So just when you think you have a hang on things already, and then, bam, something else just springs up. Something changes. And then you start wondering, oh, where did I go wrong? What did I do? Oh, maybe I have failed as a mother. Maybe I have failed as a parent. But I tell you today, it's very easy for us to flog ourselves when things go wrong. Or it's very easy for us to blame ourselves when we see our children springing up some surprises on us. But I want to tell you that you are not alone. You probably feel that some things are not working, you're trying all your best as regards to being a mother, being a good mother, but things don't seem to be working as well. And you start feeling so bad, feeling that you have failed, start flogging yourself, start feeling terrible. How many of us have felt that way before? Yours sincerely, I have been in that corner many times. Alright, so I'd like for you to know today that motherhood is God's idea. It's not my idea, it's not your idea. It's God's idea, and it is God's assignment for you. The kids that are in our care, they are His. They are His heritage. So we are just privileged to be the minders, the caregivers for them. God just put them in our hands to care for them on His behalf. So you know what? The blueprint is with Him. The blueprint of motherhood is with God alone. We've just been privileged to be called in to join God in taking care of His awesome heritage. So it's God that has the blueprint. So whenever we run into a hitch, whenever we hit the rock, whenever we come to our wit's end, what do? The best and the only safe thing is to go back to God, the founder, the creator, the owner of the heritage, and go run it by Him and find way forward from Him. And I tell you, for me, like I said, it has been a learning process, and it has been an awesome time revisiting, what the template of God is for motherhood. The role of a mother as God intended, I'd like to put it under two broad umbrellas. The mother is supposed to exercise protective care, and then the mother also is supposed to exercise authority over her kids. Now, this two summarizes all it means to be a mother. There are so many offshoots that come under these two umbrellas. Now, don't miss this. These two broad category of what it means to be a mother is not something that happens by default. No, we have to be intentional about being a mother. We have to be intentional about doing what God requires of us as a mother. Have we ever wondered how greatly God esteemed motherhood? That He placed the entire restoration plan of humanity on the critical role of a mother. That's how much God esteemed motherhood. Remember in Genesis, when the first man fell, and when God was about meting out all the punishment or repercussion for their action, and He told the woman that your seed shall bruise the heel of Satan. That was a very, very huge role there. The woman was empowered from beginning, ab initio, to be able to nurture, to be able to love, to be able to culture, and bring forth, birth this child into destiny. So the transformation, the restoration of the whole of humanity was actually vested on the role of a mother. You see how huge a task we have as a mother. I'm sure this will excite someone in the house today. I'm sure you know that already, but a reminder of who we are as a mother, that we are actually blessed and privileged, that God will deem us worthy to put this huge task on our laps and trusting that we will do it and do it very well. So moving on from there, focusing on a few areas that we need to, as a mother, pay attention to. Now, I said earlier that we cannot carry out this task or this role by default. It doesn't just happen. We need to be intentional about motherhood. So like I said, focusing on a few areas that we need to pay attention to as mothers, bearing in mind that we need to be intentional at motherhood. Now, I said earlier that God is the owner of the kids that are in our care. And so, for starters, we need to have a vibrant relationship with God. We need to have a vibrant relationship with God, so He gives direction and instruction on how to manage His seed. There is no way we can go about raising a godly heritage without being in tune with God. To maintain a vibrant relationship with God, so that we constantly go to Him for direction. We constantly go to Him for instruction on how to manage His seed. And I also want to quickly add here that no two children are the same. For me, I have 3 kids. 3 very different kids. I have a 14-year-old, I have an 11-year-old, and I have a 5-year-old. All come with their own specification, entirely different. And I've come to learn over the years, parenting these awesome gifts that God has given to me. Every child is different, and you bring them up in specific way. We call it individualized therapy in pharmacy. By the way, I'm a pharmacist, and there's this system of therapy that we call individualized therapy. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. You do what is best suited for a particular patient. Let me give you a quick example. My 14-year-old is simple in nature, and then if you beat her now, in the next couple of minutes she has forgotten and she's playing with you again and all of that. But my 11-year-old is someone that is so sensitive to words. What you say to her means a lot. How you talk to her matters so much to her. When she was about 4, 5, yeah, I had warned them severally not to barge into my room without knocking. Now, I'll talk about that later as we go on. Not to come into my room without knocking. So, and then one day she barges into my room, and I told her, oh yeah, get out of my room. And she turns and looks at me and tells me, Mommy, don't say get out. Tell me, please leave my room. I was like, oh, okay. That is one child that your choice of words mean a lot to her. What you say to her means a lot to her. I've said that many times to my first child, and she would just walk away without a word. But my second child will stand and be like, Mommy, you don't say that, because it comes across to her as something derogatory, you know, that you tell her, get out. So she would rather you say it nicely, say, please leave my room. You understand? So, you now, if for instance, because my first child, I've come that far with her, and I use such words for her and she does not see anything wrong with it. And then I come to use that same word for my second child. And say, after all, I say to your sister, and it doesn't matter, what's your problem? You know, I would have been damaging her person already. So with these 3 children that I have, I've come to learn a lot. I have learned a lot in my 14 years of experience at motherhood. Yes, the learning continues. So we need to, go to God for instruction on how to manage the children. So one other thing that, it's very important for us to pay attention to is the fact that as a mother in our home, we need to set the culture. We need to set the culture of how things are done in our home. When I got married, I had a plan of, how to relate with people that come stay with me. I limited, what expectations I would have of them to saying, okay, this is my home and it is for me to run, it is for me to manage, me, my children, or any other help that I have personally. But when in the process I had more and more people come to live with me, I saw that it was time to review those rules as a mother. So setting the pace for how things run, deriving the culture of your home is your responsibility as a mother. You could have inputs from your husband and all of that, but know it that it is solely your responsibility to derive the culture of your home, how things run in your home, as touching respect, as touching honoring mommy and daddy, as touching honoring other people, as touching respect for one another, as touching asking for permission before they take this. However you want to run your home, it is for you to derive. Like my children, I always tell them, I actually bringing them up, part of what I set as a ground rule in our home is having them ask for permission before they take anything. And I made them understand that this is your father's house. Everything in this home belongs to you. But you need to have that consciousness or the sensibility to ask for permission before you take anything. That way, you learn courtesy. Because if you don't do that, if you are used to coming and then you just pick whatever it is you want, when you go to another environment that is not your father's house, you may do the same thing. And it may be upsetting for the people that have that home. So one, it brings law and order into your own life as a child, and then it helps you to respect other people's space when you get in their space. So that's part of the culture we have in our home. And before you take something from the fridge or before you take anything, mommy, please can I have this? Mommy, please can I have biscuit? Mommy, please can I have this? That is one of the things we do in our home. And then also, as part of the culture, we make them to take responsibility for one another. Between my first child and my second child, I have about 3 years gap. So when my first child was about 5 or 6, my second child was about 2, 3. And my first child learned very early to watch out for her younger one. When the younger one uses the bathroom and she needs someone to clean her up, I don't have to go running to do everything. I make her take care of her younger sister. She goes to clean her up when she uses the bathroom. And she helps her to do 1 or 2 things. So you teach them to take responsibility for one another. That way, they learn team playing. They learn that they don't live for themselves alone. They learn to share with one another. And they learn to look out for other people as well. That way they are sensitive to people's needs. Because of such training, I remember when one of my nephews was living with us at the time, and he was in a boarding school, and we went to visit him in school with my child. She was my first child. She was about 9 or 10 then. So on a visiting Sunday, we went to visit my nephew, and there was this child that was just sitting on one side alone and looking very miserable and unhappy. And my daughter picked that. She came to me to say, "Mommy, that girl over there is looking very unhappy. She's looking like nobody came to visit her. She's looking very sad. Can I go and talk to her?" And I said, "Oh, sure, why not?" And she walked up to the girl and asked of her name. This was a girl in primary school. My daughter was in primary school at the time. And this girl in question that she walked up to was in secondary school, a boarding school where her cousin was, that we went visiting. And she walked up to this girl and asked for her name, and you know, started talking with her, chatting her up, said, "You're looking unhappy, you're looking sad. What's wrong with you?" And she said her parents didn't come to visit her and all of that. I said, "Okay, come and meet my mommy." And she brought the girl to us, and of course we shared a few of the things we came with, gave her some biscuits and a few of the things, and she livened up that girl's life. Every time I go to visit my nephew before he finished from that school, as soon as the girl sights me, she will run to us and come and greet us. Even when I go alone and I don't go with my daughter, she will run to me and come and greet me. You know, that meant a lot to her. Now, teaching them to pay attention to other people, it will help them to be sensitive to people's needs in their environment, not to live for themselves alone. So that's part of, you know, bringing up or building the culture around your home on how you want your home to function or operate as a woman, as a mother. Now, moving on from there, I'd like to quickly say that as a mother, you are responsible for everyone under your roof. You give direction. You remember when God said of Abraham in Genesis 18:19 that he knows Abraham, that he will command every member of his household after him to follow the Lord. That is the role we have as a mother. It's our responsibility to see to the welfare of everyone in our home, regardless of how old they are. And of course, when you are responsible for them, you also have to hold them accountable. Once you allow people to be under your roof, now I'm speaking beyond your biological children now, because I want to believe some of us here have people that are living with us. I have had people live with me, you know, over the years. In my short experience as a wife and mother, I've had different generation of people live in my house. And you have to know that you are responsible for them. Apart from seeing to their welfare, providing accommodation, and you hold them accountable. They have to be responsible for things in the house as well. Doing chores in the house, they have to be accountable. Like letting you know when they are going out and where they are going. That is something that I see that a lot of young adults struggle with. They do not like to be accountable. And as a mother, if you have people under your roof, it's important that you learn to make them accountable. You are responsible for them. So if they go somewhere and something happens, the first person that their folks or their parents or their family will go calling is you. So you need to know where they are going. You need to know what they are doing. So if we think people are living in our house and like, I don't care, he's an adult, he can do whatever he likes, I think it's something we should start revisiting and be conscious of the fact that we are responsible for everyone under our roof as a mother, and that is holistic. So long as they are under your roof, they become your responsibility, whether they are your biological children or not. And then of course, when it comes to your biological children, meting out discipline is something that it is our responsibility to do as a mother. You know, I'll just give us scriptures. Proverbs 13:34 speaks to that. Proverbs 22 15 speaks to that as well. And Proverbs 23:14 speaks to that also. So we give direction as mother to everyone that is under our roof. Now, another aspect that we need to pay attention to as a mother is teaching our children to take responsibility for their choices. You know why? We are a product of our choices. Whatever we do, every day, our every day adds up to 1 week of our life. Our 4 weeks adds up to 1 month of our life. Our 12 months adds up to 1 year of our life. And each year adds up to the total number of years you have lived. And every choice you make every single day, you are a product of all the choices that you make. And so we need to be conscious of it and be responsible for the choices that we make. I often tell my children, I always tell them, you are not helpless. And by the time we bring up our children to be responsible or to take responsibility for their choices, it makes them know that whatever they do, they don't push blame to somebody else. Wherever they find themselves, as they are able to take responsibility for their failures, they will be able to take responsibility for their success as well. If children always shy away from taking responsibility for their failures, they definitely will not own their success. So I always tell my children, don't ever think you don't have a choice. Even in split seconds, when you are faced with something that you need to make a decision, you always have a choice. You will either choose to go left or you choose to go right. Regardless of which way you go, you are responsible for that. Don't ever say, I didn't have a choice, I couldn't help it. You can help it. You are not helpless. You can make a choice. So when you get to a point where you are faced with a hard choice, say, I didn't have a choice, I had to let him do it. You have a choice, you allowed it. Now, this is not to say you're trying to flog the child for making a mistake, but they need to own their mistakes. They need to own their choices. That way, they will be able to be in the driver's seat for their lives. They will not be at the mercy of people that will manipulate them. Particularly in these days that we live in, with all the bullying that go on, cyberbullying and bullying in school and all of that. Teaching them to take responsibility, teaching them to make their choices, helps them to be able to stand up to bullying and be able to have a voice. So that's something that, I harp into my children every now and then, that they are responsible for their choices. They are not at the mercy of anybody. So that's something that is key. Moving on from there, another important aspect of motherhood that has been part of my learning so far in my short experience is the fact that I have come to know that when you teach children to brace up to failure, it builds their strength of character. It helps to build their resilience. It helps to develop self-esteem. Failure is not bad. Failure is feedback. It is just an opportunity to do it better again. We go for PTA meeting, we go for end of year party, and I see all sorts of behavior from some parents, from some mothers, that actually result in shaming of their children and making their children feel like it's a crime to fail. Making their children feel like if you're not one of the award winners, you are a no good. No. Our children should not be, defined by their achievements or by what they did or did not do. We should learn to teach our children to accept failure. Failure is not bad. It's just feedback for them to do it again. I remember watching a mother during one end of year party and award giving ceremony in one of my child's school. I guess before then, the boy normally comes first. And for some reasons, the child couldn't make first place that term. And I think he came third or so. And when he was called for the award, the mother was very upset and reluctant to go up to collect the award for her child because he came third place and somebody else came first place. Made the child feel so bad. I was heartbroken for the child. You could see how he knew what was awaiting him. And as soon as the mother, came to collect the award, the boy was visibly afraid that that this was not the last of it, that he was going to get scolded or probably spanked for not coming first place that time. And it was so painful for me. I'm like, oh my God, And then again, I saw another scenario where the child did an exam and did not do well. That the boy was so traumatized, he felt so bad. How can I fail the exam? So rather than tell the boy to brace up, okay, stop, things just go wrong sometimes. It's unfortunate that that's just an attempt. So it's unfortunate that you did not, pass this exam. You do better next time. Let them own their failure. But here was this mother, she told the child that the school called her later that the child did not fail, that he passed the exam. Whereas it was a lie. She did that just to make the boy feel good. Now tell me, what kind of a husband will that young man grow to become tomorrow? What kind of a colleague will that young man grow to become tomorrow? I actually walked up and I was like, this is not right. You're not helping him. He needs to know he failed the exam, yes, but that is not the end of it. He passed entrance exam to other schools. So if he does not make this school, he makes another school. So he needs to know that failure is part of life. But by the time we make our children grow with that false, sense of, I am good, I am the best, I can do it all. That deception. Now, when life happens, when real life situations begin to hit them, they cannot handle it. You see them crumble like a pack of cards. So from very young, like my first daughter, she's not someone that is daring, she's not adventurous. She always likes to she's good, but she likes to take the back seat and will always push her, make an attempt. I said, don't be afraid to fail. It's okay if you fail, you try again. With such encouragement, she was able to participate in track and field events. With such encouragement, she's been able to take on debates and all of that. Said, if you do not do well, the worst that can happen is you feel bad for that day, but you know that failure is part of life. So that's part of one of the things I have come to learn, in my short experience as a mother, teaching my children to accept failure and just helping them to know that this is just to prepare you to do better next time. You watch out for it's a feedback. So what did I not do right? You watch out for them, take the feedback and make corrections and do better next time. So now moving on from there, another aspect again that we need to know is that motherhood is discipline. It is our responsibility to take the discipline of our children very seriously. Now, I'm sure you would wonder, everything is just motherhood. Where is the role of the father? Well, bringing up a child is a joint venture. Yeah, I call it a venture. It's a joint venture between you and the father of the child and your spouse and your husband. However, you are the one, I want to believe, that spends most of the time with the children. The father would come in with his own rule, But when you take first place, you can be sure that your children would not miss it. Look, just take a peek into the life of David. You see how his sons turned out. You remember one of his sons, was he Adonijah or one of his sons? I think, yeah, that was Absalom's younger brother. Scripture has it that David never corrected that young man one day. I don't think there was no mention of his mother. But at least scripture records that David did not correct the young man for one day. Not as much as to tell him what you're doing is not right. You don't go that way. You don't do this. See how he ended up. Now flip side, look at Solomon. See how Solomon turned out. You think it was David that raised Solomon? No, it was his mother. His mother groomed him. His mother nurtured him. His mother brought out the leader in him. Now, when he grew, of course, the story became different later in life when he made his choices. But up until when he got to that point of taking responsibility, his mother played her role in molding him into what he ought to be. That is the huge task that we have as a mother. A big hug to all mothers out there. You are blessed. God bless you. So, motherhood is discipline. It is our responsibility to discipline our children. Proverbs 19:18 speaks to that. Deuteronomy 8:5 also speaks to that. And I'd like to just quickly chip in here that we need to be on the same page with our spouse on discipline. Even if you don't agree, even if you differ, you don't do that in presence of the children. Homes that have employed that approach have not turned out well. And guess what? Children are smarter than we think. Once they discover a crack, once they see there is a loophole, they definitely would take advantage of it. You've not seen when children use one partner against the other. They know how to play those cards very well. They know how to use mommy against daddy and how to use daddy against mommy when they see there is a loophole. And that's why you two need to be on the same page. My kids would come to me and say something, and then they'll go to daddy. Or maybe they'll go to daddy first and then they'll come to me. And when I give a response, I say, oh God, I knew it. You and daddy were going to say the same thing. Yeah, because daddy and I are one. So sometimes, for basic things like they want to take a snack or something, they know they will get a no from mommy. You know, mommies are very used to saying no quickly. You know, they know they will get a no from mommy. They will now go to daddy. Sometimes if he's busy, he will be like, okay, go and take. Some other times he's okay, go and meet mommy. You know, so the children need to know that we are on the same page. Even if we differ on any approach, let us sort it within the four walls of our bedroom. You and your spouse alone. Don't disagree in presence of the children. Alright, so moving on to another very, very important point. We need to teach children to cultivate their own faith and value. Your child cannot inherit your spirituality. They cannot inherit their father's spirituality. That is part of our key responsibilities as a mother. And your children don't become Christians by default. I have come to see over time that this is one very huge mistake that our fathers made. You see so many pastors, when you see their children, you will wonder, is this the child of a pastor? You see so many very fervent, strong believers. You cannot match their children with them. A lot of them, I've had a conversation with a few people, and a lot of them they've come to agree on one point, or have come to see over time that the huge mistake that some parents made is to, assume that because they are Christians, assume that because they are taking their children along with them to church, that their children will turn out to become Christian. Children don't become Christians by default. They can't imbibe your spirituality. They can't inherit your spirituality. They can learn from you. Of course, teaching them to cultivate their spirituality and to derive their own values, they can learn from you and your ways, but they need to own their spiritual journey, and that you teach them. Introducing Christ to them. Yes, introducing Christ to them. Inviting them to come and start the journey of being a child of God like I am. And I let them know, mommy, spirituality cannot stand for you. You are, once you have come to the age of accountability, you stand before God on your own. And the journey of faith of your father, the journey of faith of me, your mother, cannot stand for you. You need to know God for yourself. And they have come to make that decision a few times. Of course, we've gone that route many times, right? Sometimes, after a while, you see that you need to revisit it. Yes, you keep revisiting it until they own it. You keep revisiting it until they own it. Until they come to know that, okay, this is something that I have to do for myself. So we teach them to cultivate their own faith and values. We also need to know that we need a community. Nobody is an island when it comes to raising children. There's an adage in my place that's interpreted, says that it's only when the child is in your womb as the mother that the child is your own. Once the child is born, it becomes everybody's responsibility. Some mothers actually frown at people correcting their children, disciplining their children. If you are the only authority figure in your child's life, then you are not helping that child. You need to intentionally and consciously endorse the authority of other people in their lives, like their teachers, like other leaders in church, their Sunday school teacher, like other adults that you have in the house. I've had to beat my children many times because of my house help. And somebody will be like, why are you beating the child? Yes, she is my domestic aid when they are probably rude to her or when they are nasty. But you see that there's in some homes, some parents are actually, they pay a deaf ear or a blind eye to their children being rude to their aides or their helps in the house because they are less privileged or something. Such a child will grow not to have regard for people of low estate. So it's important that we are conscious of having them recognize other authority figures and have respect for other people, regardless of their status. It's something that is very, very key. I let them know you don't talk to auntie so and so like that. No, it's not right. You don't talk to uncle so and so like that. By the time you of course, would they try boundaries? Yes. They will try the boundaries, and when that happens, you beat them like I've had to do with my kids a few times. When they try the boundaries, you beat them, you redefine the boundaries and let them know that there are rules here. You don't talk to people like that. You don't behave so to people that way. It's not acceptable. That way, they learn to respect people. You see some children, even in churches, there are certain people they cannot interact with. People that don't belong to their social class. Now, how come children now get so class conscious? Okay, I belong to the class of people that come to church with cars. So people that don't come to church with cars, they are not my class. We are damaging our children if we do that. One funny thing happened a couple of years ago. We were going for a youth forum. There's a program we normally have for young people, and I was going to drive in my car, and there was a church bus available to convey people to the venue of the program. And when I wasn't living yet, and they were supposed to, come to the church and board the bus at a certain time. And I discovered that my daughter was dragging her foot. And I'm like, why don't you go and join the bus? Because I'll be coming late. I had a few assignments to do. Some things I'm going to be carrying. He now said, no, she does not want to go with the church bus. I said, excuse me? You don't want to go in the church bus. Why? She wants to ride in my car. Do you know how much the tire of the car is sold for? Okay, when you buy your own car, you can now choose to ride in your own car. I insisted she goes to church and join the bus to go for the program. People that are in the bus, they are human beings. And, I now made her go join the bus. And after the program, when I was coming back, I did not take her in my car. I carried other children in my car. I made her join the church bus back. I said, go back home the way you came. And luckily, I was living on the same street with the church at the time. So when you drop at the church, you just walk home. And that communicated a life lesson for her. So you take advantage of teaching moments and learning moments, to communicate such values to the children. So, like I was saying, I had to take such a drastic step to communicate a life lesson to her that everybody is important, regardless of what means they have or do not have. And I was very sure she got that lesson that day. So these are some of the things we need to pay attention to in our journey or our experience as a mother. Now, one other thing I learned recently that I'd like to share is the fact that how many of us have had to deal with children throwing tantrums, having an outbreak, freaking out, having breakdowns and all of that. I learned very recently, and I'm still on that learning. I learned very recently that when children enter such fits, that they are actually not behavior. So those freakouts, tantrums, outbreaks, breakdown, they are not behavior. Rather, they are emotions that have gone out of control. So at such moments, they lose the capacity to think straight. So what that taught me is the fact that every meltdown and tantrum or angry outburst from a child is a child's way of saying that they need something. They are trying to communicate something. So one way to look at it, to look at their bad behavior as them telling us that they need a skill or strategy in certain area. That's exposing a skill or a strategy that they do not have. That was huge for me, and that made me to start paying attention to my children. We get upset as adults, things upset us as adults. Children are also individuals on their own, and they also get upset. Things go wrong. Now, am I saying ignore a child when they have outbursts? No. So, but rather than see it that they are disobeying us, they are doing this, we should look into the child. What exactly is this child deficient at? So if it is the fact that they are not able to manage a crisis, after they calm down, we can now start speaking to that area of their life, helping them to develop skill and strategy. That was huge for me. It's a recent learning that I am working on, but I just thought to share. So everything put together is actually, a learning process. And like I said, it's a journey. Nobody is an expert. I am still learning, still very young. I'm an amateur at motherhood. But God has helped me thus far because at every point, I go back to Him. I take every child to God. And then another thing I do, I have all girls, by the way. So I call it girl time. We do have girls time. So we talk. We talk about so many things, talk about our sexuality. By the way, I did a video with my husband and one of my friends on my child's sexuality. I'll also be sharing the link on this on the platform so that you can go look at it. You might learn one or two things from it about handling your child's sexuality. So we talk about so many things. Talk about crush. We talk about their failures in school. Talk about their fallout with their friends. Talk about, so many things. So we create time. I actually create time for them, and it's been an awesome moment. We do have our breakdowns. We do have our issues, because of course, for everything that is not perfect, there's always teething problem. Yeah, there are always challenges, but in all, it's been an awesome learning moment, and God has been helping me. So this is just a few things I thought to share with us, as part of my experiences and gleanings from my journey as a mother so far. I hope this has been helpful for someone out there, and I pray that God would help us all as we take this into consideration and look to God to help us every step of the way. God bless you. We need to bear in mind the different personality of our children, and we approach things differently for each child. That's one. Then secondly, we need to be able to navigate between the two camps, which is being your child's friend when occasion demands, and being your child's disciplinarian when the occasion demands. And by that, you need to have gained your child's trust. Let them know that you love them. Let them know that they can talk to you. Like I discuss things as simple as, or as delicate as crush with my children. From age 9, 10, my daughter could tell me who was her crush, and that has changed over time. Oh, she was crushing on this guy. After a while, she's not crushing on him again. And I tell her how to manage it, not to feed it and things like that, and also share my experience with her. I let her know, so that they can also share in your humanity. All right? Because if they see mommy as, mommy hero, mommy spiritual, mommy prayer warrior, mommy Bible, mommy walking Bible, if that is all they see, it makes it a tall feat. How can I get there? But they need to know that you started from somewhere. You also had crushes. Like the clip I did on sexuality, I mentioned that I shared with my daughter how I had a boy I was crushing on and that didn't notice me. And when I became born again, the boy now came toasting me, and I was like, why are you just coming now? It's too late. Stuff like that. And such atmosphere can make the child open up to you. Now, if this is me as the friend mommy, and then Akachi knows me very well. When I now put on the cap of disciplinarian mommy, my kids know. So with wisdom will teach you how to navigate the two portfolio. You can be your child's friend and still be able to discipline them when they have been able to earn your trust, when they know that you love them. So that when you discipline them, they know that you're disciplined out of love, not because you just want to dish out rules, dish out do's and don'ts, and that is all you are good at. When we employ that method, our kids will easily shut down on us. I hope this helps, Okuchi. You see, there is something in this part of the world that we do not really pay attention to. That is mentoring, talking to people. We just grow. Some of us just grew like that on our own. Some people were even lucky to have parents that parented them or taught them. Some people just grew on their own. Because why? A child does not come with a manual per se. So people just barge in to just do cut and join with parenting. And of course, they do with what they know. They do the best that they know. So when we come to that point where we know that we have suffered battering, we have suffered some emotional trauma, we've suffered some backlash of so many not too pleasant experiences, it is always best not to carry this in to our own, parenting with our children, we definitely do need healing. That's where the place of mentor, that's where the place of coaches come. You need to talk to someone. You need to pour out. You need to go through some sessions of talking to someone and going over a healing process. And that's not something that can be, offered on the screen. It's a process. And so I'm sure Mending Voices is one of such mentoring platforms, and so many others. So you need to, so one other option again is being able to glean from people that are doing better, or that are exemplary in such areas. You can learn from them. You can talk to them, share your experience with them, and they share theirs with you. You rub minds together and you grow to become better. But definitely going through some mentorship session and some form of healing process is crucial for such a person, so that you don't carry over your pain into your own parenting of your children. I hope this helps, Kenna. One last point I'd like to just quickly harp on is the fact that we must teach obedience to our children very early. Teach obedience to our children very early. It's very, very key. Even though I missed it out, I did not want to just let this day go without mentioning it. It's something that is very, very critical. We need to teach obedience to our children very, very early. You know that children are very, very good at trying boundaries. When you say don't do this, they try the boundaries. You need to let them know there is authority and there is submission, and they need to learn to obey. I remember when interestingly, I have gone through this session with my 3 children. My first, my second, and my third at different times, and about the same age range, about 2 to 3. That is when children like to enforce their own authority. They like to let you know that they are also an individual and they can generate their own government. You need to let them know that in this house, my own government is in charge. We cannot have 2 governments in this home. You understand? A child will do something and then you tell him, undo that. Or maybe he hurt someone and say apologize, say I'm sorry. And the child refuses to say I'm sorry. You don't let it pass. When you let it pass, that child will grow never willing to apologize or to undo any wrongdoing that they do. There was my first daughter, my sister-in-law, my husband's elder sister was in my house at the time. She came visiting, and my child did something and we asked her to apologize or to undo it, and she said no. We kept beating her, both my husband and I. My sister-in-law was like, this is too much, and we asked her to stay out of it. We kept flogging her, spanking her on her hand until she said she was sorry. So we always get to that breaking point. When you come to that, don't be the one to give up. Don't say, even when I was flogging her, I was feeling the pain. I was hot within, but I kept at it until she buckled and she knew that yes, mommy and daddy are the authority here and I need to submit. That happened for my first child, happened for my second child, it happened for my third child. Because when they grow otherwise, they would always be self-willed and not wanting to be corrected. You see so many adults, battling with the same issues. I mean, I've had so many people pass through, my place and pass through my home, and I see that show up. When you correct them for something, they just coil up. They just recoil into their shell. They just feel very withdrawn because they are used to having their way from where they are coming from. So it's very, very important to teach children obedience from very early, so that they know that there is authority and submission and there is hierarchy in life. It will help them to go very far in life. Okay, now I don't have a hands-on experience because I have just girls. However, the same rule applies. Society has come to focus on raising the girl child. Oh, This is now, you can't grow to become a wife like this. You have to comport yourself. You have to learn to take care of your husband. You have to learn to take care of your children. You have to learn to be responsible, learn to multitask. You come back from work, you cook, you do. A girl child is prepared for the future, prepared for the husband, prepared for marriage, prepared for motherhood. But unfortunately, it doesn't appear like the boy child is prepared to be that man that the girl child is being raised for, unfortunately. Now, the same rule applies. It's basically drumming all these things that we have talked about here today into our child, regardless of their gender. The child should learn to take responsibility. The child should learn to be obedient. The child should also learn to develop their spirituality, to learn responsibility, to learn respect for law and order, learn respect for themselves and for others. So the same rule applies to both boys and girls, but it seems society, or at least our society, focuses more on the girl child. So we should zoom in the same light on the boy child as well. And the African culture has not helped in that regard, because the boy is brought up as a king. They say, oh, kitchen work is not for boys. Oh, this work is not for boys. And then the boys are made to believe that they are kings without any sense of responsibility. And that is why we have all these gaps in society. My mother, we lost our dad, so my mother raised us alone as a single mom. All of my brothers, there is nothing they don't do. I had 5 elder brothers. I have 5 brothers, 4 elder brothers and a younger brother. My elder brothers can do virtually everything. They cook. Even in their homes today, the ones that are married, I can almost say that they've spoiled their wives. Till today, my brothers still cook. My eldest brother in the US does cooking in his home till today. At least I was there late last year. He still cooks. He has grown-up children. His last kid is 19. So he's not like, he doesn't, from very young, he still cooks, he still does virtually everything. You understand? So when we bring up a child is a child, whether it's a boy or a girl. So we should not treat anyone like a special sect. All right? Because the emphasis and the glory that African culture placed on the male child is one of the culprits, one of the major reasons why a lot of them are being raised to be irresponsible. A boy child should sweep, a boy child should cook, a boy child should mop and do all sorts of household chores, and they should also be taught to respect their sisters, because charity begins at home. Respect their sisters, respect their mothers. So once that is done, that child will grow to know that he is first a responsible part of the society. Now, there was I'm on a platform on Facebook, and there was a question that was posed a couple of days ago about a woman that didn't know how to handle a situation where her husband just lost his job last month, and they have a joint account, and then he goes and withdraws all the money from their account when her salary entered. She went to the grocery store and wanted to buy groceries from the house, and her card was declined for insufficient funds. Only for her to get home and ask the husband, and he said, yes, I withdrew the money. You can do your worst. That is a child that was not raised to handle challenges, that has been taught that he has to win. So whenever he fails, he loses his self-esteem, he loses his sense of humanity, of manhood. You understand? And he starts to misbehave. Cleared out the account. The woman's salary was gone. And he shamelessly said she could do her worst. He was the one that took the money. You understand? So that's just to mention. So by the time we don't let children face this reality, letting them to handle failure, letting them to face the issues of their life. You know, all these tips I have shared applies to both male and female. And by the time we bring up our children intentionally this way, they will grow up to become responsible part of the society. I hope this helps, Kema. Talking about finance is another kettle of fish. From very young, financial responsibility should be taught to the children, both male and female. All right? And then, of course, don't spoil them with money. Don't let them get used to always buying things. Oh, any money that comes to their hand, they'll go and buy sweet, they'll go and buy biscuits. That's one very thing that predisposes children to sexual abuse and other things. That's another topic for another day. But from very early, as soon as they become aware of themselves, part of that awareness is learning about financial management, financial responsibility. That is crucial. I would like to approach that question from two angles. First of all, for you, how are you living your life currently? Now, when I was talking about financial intelligence and all of that, it's important that we live below our means. Okay? I've come to see that I've had a few trainings on financial intelligence and all, and I've come to see that even a lot of parents do need lessons on financial intelligence. Some people spend all of their earnings. It's wiser to live far below our means. And I'm telling you from experience. It's wiser to live far below your means. You don't spend all you earn. So it's wiser to live within a budget. Now you make, there are 5 ways, you have for savings, you have for investment, you have for spending, you have for help or sharing, and now taking care of other people's needs, your parents, your folks, family, for church and all of that. So there are ways to fraction our earnings so that we live healthily financially. So once you have that lifestyle, you have what you save, you have what to invest and all of that. What you have for spending, you limit your living within that. Your rent, your feeding, your clothing. So once you're living within that, anything that you allow, of course you make provision for holiday and leisure and recreation for yourself as well. So whatever you're spending, that you are trying to bring up your children to be prudent does not mean they cannot dress well. It does not mean you cannot eat well. Alright? So you bring them up to know, to have dignity for labor and to have respect for work and earning. If, for instance, you are earning 100,000 and you can buy 50,000 naira shoe for a child, that will not be a wise spending, right? And that child may not have respect for money and for labor. He feels he can get anything he wants. So our spending should be within a limit. All right? For me, I shop for clothes for my children. Even when I travel out of the country, we do go out on vacation. We go to the US, we go to the UK on vacation, but it's planned. We do invest, we save, we give to the work of the ministry, we go to the work of God. We support other brethren, we support the widows. I'm telling you what we do as a family, my family. So we take care of all of that. And guess what? Every step of the way, my children are aware. We carry them along. Christmas season, we do packages for widows and the less privileged. They are the ones that pack it. I go and buy all the things, the rice, the thing, tomato, the everything. They join me to pack, or I leave them to pack. They are involved in our day-to-day running of the home. All right? So when that is done, the children know I take them to the market when I go to buy things. My younger daughter, in fact, she is an Ijebu like me. She can, I'm not a Ijebu person by tribe, talking of by way of pricing. I can price for Africa. Bargaining, I mean. When I go to buy something, I will price and price. In fact, at some point, my first daughter will be embarrassed. There was a day she and the younger sister went to buy something, and the younger sister was like, my older daughter was scolding the younger one. He said, no, just now see the way you are pricing like your mother. You understand? So they see these things and they imbibe it from you. So from the way you live, if you are living prudently, You buy good clothes for your children. You don't mean you dress in rags or anything, but you don't have to spoil them. You know, this mindset of, oh, I suffered, my children will not suffer. I used to tell my children, I say, I suffer and I make a get sense today. If I don't get sense, I don't feel transfer sense give you. Do you understand? So we need to bring that balance. When it's time to enjoy, we enjoy. When it's time to be straight, we'll be straight. That's what scripture talks about, learning how to both abase and to abound. So if for any reason we are out of job today, daddy is out of job, mommy is out of job, we know how to cook soup with 200 naira. And I can also cook soup of 5,000 naira. Do you understand? So it's bringing that balance. Not really putting ourselves in one straight jacket. Not putting ourselves in one straight jacket, but to live within our means and not living below our means, I beg your pardon, and not spend everything we earn. So we pass the same culture to our children, so that when things are tough, they can easily also adapt. There are some children that their parents lose job and they are angry that things are not as it is, as it should be in the house again, because they don't know. They are not carried along. So they don't care. Their own is provide them the comfort they have been used to. So but when we teach our children that comfort is at a price, and when it does not come, we all live within it, it's easier to adapt.